Difference and stigma. You don't know the word, what an enigma. It's easy, it's treatment matched with your belief. What you see, you can't understand because that shows your thinking, oh good grief. When you see someone in pain, when you know that they struggle, do you turn away or do you help? It's that simple. What you see and what is truth, it's caught up in imagery. That was literature writing to me. How to describe things was never hard for me. Until being in a place that wasn't reality, they could turn away from education. How it affected me when I returned after disability from that knock. Let's not get back to that, 'cause it's horrifying, you see. It was the people's indifference. I think it actually shows them how people look at situations through their eyes. This is a topic it's kind of hard to talk about. They'll use the knowledge, and because they don't want to admit all that they did, we're too easily believing the good nature of people. But this is the thing. There are definite behaviors that people do. Let's start with this I'm confused, and then how they victim blame and turn the tables on you. Well, I didn't say that. I don't recall. I just don't get it. So let's blame the person and make sure they fall, which means not giving them the education to begin with. So that goes back to prejudice and belief. This was my education. In order to do anything well, you have to recognize your own bias.
For mandatory training around unconscious bias and working to not only educate but sensitize every Starbucks partner to this issue.
It's not unconscious. It shows a lack of empathy. You start questioning. They turn away or they tell you, hey, I don't like your tone. Let's focus on the issue here. And this is where I hit it home. Somebody told me the way that they think. They wanted validation and they knew it, they weren't gonna get it. This is the topic of difference. It's helping someone understand that people have different perspectives. But then when you realize that was never the directive, it was about getting away and using all the things that they say. So healthcare, education, and victimology are all places of stigma, blaming the victim. And how do they do it? Time and time again. They act confused and they don't understand. Then they can walk away and change the narrative, create fear inside of you by using what they knew. And in this case, they knew that I could not physically move after getting hit in a place after multiple assaults, creating an environment.
For 3 days, I've had very little sleep. I've been actively engaged to listen and understand, and we are crafting a journey. This is the first step in our journey, and I have an accountability to make sure that we do the thoughtful analysis, that we are thorough, and that we are intentional about every step we take.
After getting hit in a place after multiple assaults, creating an environment where children just didn't have to be taught. Then returning after a year of off work and definitely getting in not sure if any of this healthcare was worth it, but I was resilient, knowing I would do anything, and this is my luxury of saving my pennies. So the word different is inside of me, branded hot, just because it was the topic that was constantly brought up. Time is the best thing for people that want to get away from it. How to describe this? The body. Well, I'm gonna try, because this is the seed. When people have their jobs on the line, they act different. When I question their knowledge, the same behaviors I got, so I guess that meant you can do the same thing to people because it's so unbelievable. Writing and reading were the things that were taken away. But I have to do it in pieces because it's too much at once. And that's the part that's cray. And why I will always say, when in a situation where you should speak up and stand up for yourself, you should do it. I want to try a new thing in society where the survivor victim is elevated. See, they've gone through something. And if you don't have true empathy, that shows character on them. The behavior matters. And why? Because we all know about trauma and we all know about safe spaces. We understand when we go into something nice, how it makes us feel different. So we can't pretend that we don't understand. And I'm sorry, but if good parenting is making sure your kids have a job and a vocation and a way to take care of themselves and independence, you might want to make sure that they're also a good person. Because you never know when decisions will come back and haunt you. Consistent. Because this is my truth. I didn't intend it is an excuse. Doesn't matter. These are predictive skills. And if a teacher is expected to predict everything that happens, and I'm pretty sure we can have the standard be for adults having dominion over other people, and if they don't want to recognize their own behaviors that are brought on by emotionality and anxiety, then fine. You can't own it, and that tells me to stay the hell away from you. It took a couple years and different environments for me to understand what all that weirdness meant. But thank you, hindsight, the point of these injuries did not give my kids a classroom in order to get to me their lack of knowledge shown through. Because then you can say anything to delay. I'm going to say everything that comes up at me verbatim, and that's what this PTSD journey has been. But I have to say, it's worked, it's been effective, and I've gotten my voice back. I'm going to trace back, because now I'm on the attack. When my head is clear, because I can move my neck, my range of motion has increased over the past 6 weeks. Why I refused medication for 5 months from a therapist who couldn't get it. Her frustration, her telling me that I'm triggering, when no, I'm just sitting here calmly. You're looking at my body and the way that I have to talk, and the way that I have to not be able to, and the way that I have to master the way I sit and stand for prolonged periods. And that's it. You don't understand it. Well, then I hope you never have injury to yourself or family. But it's knowledge. The people that have helped me most don't have fancy degrees. They had life experience. And that goes back to the classroom. How? Losing my teaching philosophy was my life philosophy. And now that I can tell myself that I'm a teacher again, it all kind of drifted in, thank goodness. And why? I can never justify what they did, but every decision I make, as I've done throughout my entire life, is because of what I've learned and the feedback from others. Told to write my schedule on a calendar that was empty, 100% empty. There was nothing going on during the day, and this was their way to say I couldn't use a space. And then while I was in there, they had meetings. Everything that has helped me is gonna get a big thank you. The sooner I get back to captivity narrative, the whole point of literacy to me, if these adults learn to read, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. All this extra money that was spent with no purpose. What a waste of time. If I had gotten the proper health care with the first injury, if I had had people that were empathetic and recognized that I just wanted a good year, requested another school, because they couldn't accept that they were the ones they couldn't justify walking away when kids were self-harming. Second time, returning and seeing it with my own eyes, it's hard to ignore. That contradiction that they lay inside you is not yours. What they do is tell the same story over and over, and you wonder why. We're talking about behaviors of people that are stuck in the past. Because they all told it to me. It took me 3 years to get the words out. Remember, the first assault was in 2013, just 5 years ago. I was speaking fine. It was the people around me that I thought had lost their mind. Again, treatment of people during a really rough time. Why we create these. It's about being someone's friend and connecting with them. But how do you do that? Through things that are genuine? And why all my students, and why I created a language that will best represent the survivor victim in their inability to speak. But also, why is it their responsibility to cope with the world? Be accepting of others. And I say no, not if they're treating you in a way that is wrong and that's going to affect you negatively. So know your triggers. And my biggest one is literally contradiction because of what happened to me. This, but you don't do. Here is a fact. The hypocrisy is you're asking me to keep track of all of that. And that's why all their bullshit gets flung back to them. And my life, my future is going to be about passions because that's how I taught and that's how I lived. You pursue what you love. You always take less. Always remember to give.
That is not who Starbucks is. And it was wrong for us to be here to ensure we fully understand the magnitude of the issue, be able to connect with local government. to ensure that we can do everything we can so that this doesn't happen again.
Building anticipation for the worst. These dates, they hurt. PTSD is gonna get reworked because I refuse to lose my words.